Apparently, everyone is leaving in the NFL. Kenny Pickett is leaving Pittsburgh. Justin Fields is leaving Chicago. And now the Chiefs are leaving Kansas City. Apparently, my father has an issue with every mascot except one in the college basketball tournament. And speaking of the tournament, which teams got the raw end of the deal? That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was around when they only showed cartoons in movie theaters, my dad, Tim.
They did show them in movie theaters.
See, I told you.
But I also watched them on TV every Saturday morning.
Who were the big cartoons when you were growing up?
Frankenstein Jr.
What is Frankenstein Jr.?
It was a cartoon. Underdog. Obviously.
I like Underdog.
Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle's great.
Love Bullwinkle and Rocky. Bugs Bunny was on, of course. Super
Right.
Friends.
The bad version.
No, the good version.
No.
Yeah, the original version.
With Spider-Man?
No,
Iceman?
Super Friends. It was no. That's a different one.
Oh.
That's Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
That was really bad.
I actually liked it, of course. No, Super Friends with Batman and Robin and Superman and Aquaman.
Got it. I don't think I've seen
Wonder
that.
Woman. Ted Knight was the voice of the narrator.
That's
He was
right.
so good.
I grew up with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
You grew
as
up with the
Batman
good
and
ones.
Joker.
You
Like,
grew up with the good ones.
you can bring up any superhero cartoon you want. In the 90s, that was the golden age of superhero cartoons.
It was.
Period.
I had
Spider-Man was great. Batman was great. Justice League was outstanding. Like, nothing competes.
I had the Wonder Twins.
That was
which-
such a weird show.
And before that, there was like a ripoff of the Scooby-Doo crew.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember their
We
names.
did have Scooby-Doo, though.
I did have Scooby.
Scooby-Doo was great. But
Yes.
before we go on this tangent, I got another tangent. But before we do that tangent, we do have to say thank you for one thing. Thank you, everybody, again, for subscribing to the channel. As you can see behind me here, we have been fortunate enough to get a plaque from YouTube that says we are at 100,000 subscribers. Never in a million years when we started this show thought we'd get there. So thank you all
Thank you
very,
very
very much for enjoying this show. I don't know why you do, but I appreciate the fact that you do. I mean, we have faces for radio and voices for newspaper, so I don't know.
You stole that from me, but I'm glad you did.
100% stole it from you because that saying is as old as dirt is new. So thank you, though, very,
Yes.
very much for doing that. But I have another tangent. So it was Pi Day last week. 3/14 is, of course, Pi Day. It's Mario Day on 3/10. Did you know that?
Did not.
Because it's
Why?
MAR10, Mario, March 10th.
Of course it is.
Listen, it's clever. It's as clever as May the 4th be with you. I love them all. Pi Day's 3/14. You understand that one, right?
Yes, I
it's
do.
a math thing.
I know pie.
Okay, wanted to make sure.
Apple's my favorite.
Yeah, there you go. I knew that was coming. So I have-
3.14. I used to know about 20 digits of
Did you
pi.
really?
We had to learn it in school. It was like a contest.
I had a calculator. Boop. Pi.
Yeah.
They said I'd never be able to use a calculator in the real world, and that's all people use in the real world. So they were
Nobody ever knows how to use. The only time I've ever seen pi used was in the movie Castaway.
I didn't know they even used it in Castaway.
Tom Hanks used it because he was trying to figure out the square mileage of how much area they had to search.
That shows how much I paid attention during that movie.
Well, and when I saw pi, I'm going, that's what it's for. I still don't understand it. But that's what
I
it's
don't get
for.
it either. I just know it's a thing, and it's a whole day. But 3.14 is Pi Day, and I got into a conversation, and I wanted to include you in this conversation because it turned into a huge argument. Because I was saying on Pi Day, I get to have cheesecake. And I was told no, that cheesecake is a cake. And I said no, cheesecake is a pie.
Cheese cake.
That's just the name.
It is not a
Cheesecake
pie.
is 100% a pie.
It is not a pie.
How are you like this too?
It is
I
a
literally said
cake.
this because I thought you'd be on my side and we can go on national thing here and agree.
No.
But the one time I need you to agree with me,
Apple is a pie. Pumpkin's a pie. Cheesecake is
Okay.
a cake.
what defines a pie?
Crust on the bottom, crust on the top, filling in the
Okay.
middle.
Crust does not have to be on the
Well,
top.
it doesn't with pumpkin.
Pumpkin pie is not. does not
I
have
know,
crust on
but
the top.
it's a custard or it's a fruit.
Yeah.
Cheesecake's
But it's-
not a custard.
Hold on. It's a crumb bottom, right?
Can be.
and the top, right?
Yeah.
So how is cheesecake not a pie?
I don't know. It just is a
How
cake.
do you bake cheesecake? Do you do it
You
in
do
a
it-
cake pan
Actually,
or a pie tin?
Actually, you bake cheesecake in a boiling water bath. It's way different than a pie is made.
Okay, I'm just saying, when you get cheesecake, is it served as a cake or is it served in the same way a pie would be served?
Depends on where you go.
No, the answer is pie.
No,
And
it's
you
not.
know
It is
the
not.
answer is true.
It's not a pie. It is a
cheesecake
cake.
is 100% a pie.
It's actually a thing of its own. It's like a third
It's
category.
like gelatin. It's its own separate thing.
Jello is Jell.
Speaking of being old,
Yeah.
no, cheesecake is 100% a pie.
No, it's
And
not.
if I wasn't fasting right now, I would have had cheesecake on Pie Day, as
Good
I
for
have
you.
every other year,
Good for
because
you.
cheesecake is a pie.
It is not a pie.
I actually don't eat cheesecake we have a
You
rule
don't
in
even
my
like
house.
cheesecake.
I,
Well, you
you've
do.
seen me devour a whole cheesecake in one sitting.
You do. The only
I
cheesecake.
get it once a year. That's my rule, because I could eat cheesecake 24/7 and I'd have a big Kyle. So on my birthday, I get it, but I get a whole cheesecake to myself.
The only cheesecake I ever really loved was the one your grandmother made. It was a cherry cheesecake. It had to be in a specific pan, and it had a mountain of whipped cream on it.
Yeah.
It was so good, and it was definitely,
You know my
Okay.
favorite cheesecake?
Huh.
You should know the answer to this.
I don't know, probably chocolate. No,
No.
I
How
don't
are
know.
you bad at this?
I don't.
You this just proves my father doesn't pay attention to me at all.
Well,
Welcome to my childhood, by
I'm
the way.
sorry.
This is what I dealt with. My favorite cheesecake, it's the best cheesecake of all time, is raspberry cheesecake.
It is good.
The sour bitterness of the raspberries with the sweetness of the cheesecake,
Actually,
especially
that-
the graham cracker crust.
The tartness of a raspberry.
Well, I call it bitter. It's
Tart.
tart. You're right. It is tart. I've been correct on that before. But that mixed together, so good. It is by far my favorite cheesecake. Every year on my birthday, I get one just to me. And
You do.
trust me, I finish it, and then I puke. And then I have more cheesecake, because now I have room.
And for those who doubt
Which is
that
why I don't get cheesecake anytime other than that.
for those who doubt that he actually would do that, my niece made the world's greatest Christmas cookies.
Yeah.
Goofus over here one year went and ate, and they're super rich and they're
Yeah.
almondy and they're wonderful. He ate like 30 of them at one sitting
I did.
and was sick for days.
Yep.
And couldn't explain it. I'm like, well, if you become a glutton, that's
Right.
what happens.
You know what I have to say to that? Worth it.
Got
But
it.
You let us know what you think in the comments below. Agree with me. Cheesecake is a pie.
It's its own
It
thing.
is not a cake. It's definitely not a cake.
It's more of a cake than a pie.
It's cheese pie. But you can't name it cheese pie because cheese pie sounds disgusting.
I like.
And so it is cheesecake because it sounds sweeter, but it is actually
Well, it
a
is
pie.
sweet.
Cheesecake
No.
is a pie.
It is not.
Cheesecake is a pie. You agree with me in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. By
can't-
the way, I like that. I'm doing that from now on. Let me know in the comments below that you agree with me versus give us your opinion. Just let me know you agree with me.
I can't stand cream cheese, but I love it in cheesecake.
Yeah, I'm weird on cream cheese. If I know it's in
Ooh.
something, it sets me in a weird direction. But if I don't know it's in something, it's just given to me, then it's great. It's
People who just
Mine
put it
thing.
on a bagel and eat it.
I can't do that.
Oh,
No, I try a lot of things. I'm actually gonna retry cottage cheese again for the
Ooh.
first time, because apparently
one.
it's really good for you.
your Uncle Mark loved it.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't eat it since I was a kid. Same with mac and cheese. I can't eat mac and cheese anymore. I don't know why. It just grosses me out.
The only kind I can eat is Kraft.
But
Anyways,
sports. We need to talk the NFL here. Big things just happened in the NFL.
Uh-huh.
Kenny Pickett, who probably handled a situation worse than any human being could have ever handled a situation. Allegedly, Kenny Pickett did come out and say this is not how it happened. There are a lot of sources that say it did happen. I can't imagine he'd be in Philadelphia right now if it didn't happen. But for those who don't know, Kenny Pickett was traded to the Eagles basically for a third-round pick
Because he whined,
because it sounds like, again, allegedly,
that he went
he
into
threw
talk.
a fit.
He went to Tomlin. He went to the front office and said, if you're going to go with Wilson, I want out of here. Instead of going, yeah, fine, bring him in. I'll beat his ass out.
Do you know why he's like that? Because he has tiny hands. He's Whopper Jr. hands. compensation.
If I'm Philadelphia, why would you pick up Kenny Pickett and not Justin Fields?
No, I was hoping you could explain that to me because I really don't understand this.
Can you imagine if you're Philadelphia and you have Justin Fields backing up Jalen Hurts? Hurts goes down with an injury.
Right.
You plug in the same quarterback.
Kenny Pickett, you mean? Justin Fields.
No, if they would have went with Fields over Kenny Pickett.
I was really confused. I was like, you can't be suffering from dementia this early in life.
No. Kenny Pickett in Philadelphia makes no sense to me.
He grew up there. I didn't know.
it.
I always thought he grew up in like the Pittsburgh area because they kept saying a Pittsburgh kid. But apparently he grew up in New Jersey. I didn't know that till right now.
He was a Philadelphia fan growing up.
Philadelphia fan. He seems like his press conference was very practiced.
Of course.
So well done there. But man, it's just he's thrown 13 touchdowns in 2-3 years that he's actually been playing football, which in the NFL today is unacceptable. That's unacceptable in the 80s.
He couldn't
in 2
beat
years to throw 13 touchdowns.
What's not acceptable, he couldn't beat out Mason Rudolph.
They literally benched him for Mason Rudolph. He was inactive for games. I mean, let's go back. This started last year when he was inactive for games because he refused to back up Mason Rudolph. Again, allegedly, but from everything we're hearing, everything we're seeing, and the way Kenny Pickett responded to questions about it, clearly this is most likely what happened.
A lot of smoke to go with. And
There's a lot of smoke, but you're refusing to bet. You'd rather be inactive for a game than be a good teammate and back up somebody who's beating you out. I mean, this kid was a bust the day he was drafted. We did how many shows on him with his hands being a big issue, and they clearly have been.
It's been a total issue. I mean, we brought in the footballs and showed what happens. My hands are the same size as Kenny Pickett. I can no more hold on to an NFL football than I could hold on to an NBA basketball.
I have 9-inch hands, and I don't understand how Joe Burrow does it, honestly. But I definitely had a better grip than you did on that ball.
I know why he wears gloves. He has to.
No choice.
None.
Zero choice in the matter.
I mean, he's a much better athlete. I'm sure his hands are much stronger, but it's still tough to throw a ball. And you saw a lot, especially when the weather started getting cold. Where was he missing? High.
Correct.
That meant the ball was sailing out of his hands before he wanted it to.
I haven't seen that happen. Remember Vince Young?
Yeah.
That was a big problem with him. And I don't know why. I mean, Vince Young was a different situation, but I haven't seen a ball thrown like that at that trajectory since Vince Young. It's just a weird. His makes more sense, though. He's got Whopper Jr. hands. He really does. His hands are not big enough to hold on to that ball. My question to you is, so the Saints with Taysom Hill had very specialized roles for him.
Sure.
Do you think they're going to do that same type of thing with Kenny Pickett?
Absolutely not.
You don't? Why would you not, though?
They're going to have him as a backup to Jalen Hurts. Period. That's all he is. I don't see them running special plays for him. I don't see them integrating him into the offense. I think he is their emergency backup. And they hope they don't have to use him for a long time.
I got to assume that they have something they're ready to draw up to give a third-round pick away to have a guy as. You don't give away a third-round pick to have a guy as your backup. You just don't.
He's going to be a career backup.
Well, he's not going to be a career backup. This is either going to work or he's out of the league. Why would you have Kenny pick up as your backup quarterback?
He's got some skills. Somebody will pick him up. He'll be cheap. He's
in a different position.
He's a bust as a first-round draft pick.
He never should have been a first-round draft pick. That was the same year Geno Smith was drafted. No, it wasn't. That was Emmanuel that was drafted the same year as him. I don't remember who was drafted, but he was the only quarterback taken in the first round that year.
It's a lot like this year. For my money, Caleb Williams might have the talent. He doesn't have the character.
Caleb Williams is a bust. I don't know why people keep talking about it.
Let me finish. There's no other quarterbacks in this draft that I see actually being a starting quarterback in 3 years.
I've been saying that for months.
Not everybody watches every week.
Yes, they do. Because of this face.
Again, face for radio.
Very much so. Just to be like, hell.
So there was another trade, though.
There was.
I think Pittsburgh.
I am so angry about this.
Pittsburgh picked the Bears' pocket and got a steal by getting Justin Fields.
When I saw this, I screamed. I am a Packers fan, right? I don't like the Bears.
But you're an Ohio State fan.
This infuriated me. Don't you dare.
You're an Ohio State fanboy.
My ethics with my fandom.
Oh, my God.
You're right, but don't you dare question it.
Okay. And that's what I have to put up with every day.
I don't understand what the Bears are doing. You finally give the weapons to your quarterback. You go and get Allen, which is a great move for the Bears.
Absolutely.
You have DJ Moore, which towards the end of the season, once Justin Fields was let to live loose, turned out to be a great pickup. You get DeAndre Swift, which is a weird pickup for Chicago, but you get weapons.
You could have gotten Marvin Harrison Jr.,
which they're clearly not doing.
No.
You got Keenan Allen to not draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
But they could have.
And you still
had a 1-2
should.
punch.
But for you to give up on Justin Fields, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is absolutely unacceptable behavior by a franchise who gets what they deserve. I used to feel bad for Bears fans. It's over. I no longer feel bad for Bears fans. You get what you deserve. If you are still a fan of the Chicago Bears, if they draft Caleb Williams especially, and you are still a fan of the Chicago Bears, sucks to be you. It's your fault now.
Well, who's going to be the quarterback coach for Caleb Williams? Say that's who they draft, or Jaden Daniels, who I think is more likely. I think they'll trade with Washington if they can.
I still see Caleb Williams.
I know
he would fall down the draft board if it was me picking, and I'm clearly not. But they're going to draft Caleb Williams.
I'm not sure of that.
They are going to draft Caleb Williams.
They probably will.
They are going to be in the same situation 3 years from now as Justin Fields goes to Pittsburgh and starts to light it up.
If Russell Wilson struggles at all after week 10, as you pointed out, because of the trade.
Justin Fields, and we didn't talk about on this show, but Justin Fields is not starting till at least week 10 or at least the fourth quarter of week 9. Reason being, it's a conditional pick, so it's a 6th-round pick. But if Justin Fields starts 51% of the games, then it turns into a 4th-round pick, which means Russell Wilson is playing no matter how bad he is.
I don't think he's going to be bad. I think he's actually going to be pretty good.
He's on a 1-year deal. The thing is with the Steelers, what's going to be interesting to see is he needs a new contract at the end of the year. And so you have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson essentially both on 1-year deals right now.
They're in great shape.
And you're paying Justin Fields a lot more than you're paying Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's getting $1.9 million or whatever it is. I mean, Denver's paying the whole thing. Here's what surprised me. The Rams signed Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they have gotten Justin Fields to sit behind Stafford for a year? Nobody seems to believe in Justin Fields.
The Bears were looking for a ridiculous compensation for him.
And
nobody bought, and then everybody else had their quarterbacks at this point, and their market was gone.
And then they moved to trade way too early. If you're not going to get anything, wait till draft night.
Right. I'm with you.
I mean, it makes no sense what they did.
I am on the same page. I don't get this. I have been saying for months, the Bears are smarter than this. They aren't this dumb. And yet, once again, they prove me wrong.
And they've got...
This is the worst move in franchise history.
They've got a defensive coach, which means, once again, whoever the quarterback is, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, is going to have no coach.
Well, this is my other question. Why would you keep Eberflus as your head coach if you're going to get rid of Justin Fields? The whole reason you kept him as your head coach is because of how well the team played down the stretch with Justin Fields as your quarterback. What was the biggest complaint in the beginning that changed this thing is Justin Fields called his team out in public and said, I feel robotic. It led Eberflus to fire the offense coordinator, and it changed Justin Fields for the better, where he's actually looking like he did at Ohio State. And then you get rid of him for a rookie quarterback, and if they draft Caleb Williams, again, you're going to have a guy whose skills don't translate to the NFL, who's not mature enough to handle the situation, who's going to be in a big city with way too much temptation at his hands. It's going to turn into a nightmare. You're going to let his dad in the room.
Better not.
Which is a terrible situation to begin with the way he's been acting. This is the kid that wrote F you to other teams on his fingernails, and you want him to lead your team? The Bears still suck.
Here's the other thing. I'm waiting for Caleb Williams to pull an Eli Manning and saying, draft me. I'm not coming.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. Force them to make a trade and not get what they should for the number one overall pick.
Williams, though, is the more the draft comes up, the more he falls down. I'm seeing what happened to Aaron Rodgers here, except, with a bad quarterback, where he continuously falls down the draft board because more comes out about him.
Well, here's the other thing. Now that Minnesota has made the moves they have, I think they're going to try to package to move up to get a quarterback. Maybe even try to get Jaden Daniels, although I don't think Washington trades back.
We'll see. I mean, you have 3 teams that are most likely going to draft quarterbacks.
Well, the first 3 are going to be Williams, Daniels, and probably Drake May, which will go to Chicago, Washington, and New England.
There's talk about McCaffrey jumping up in the first 3 picks.
He threw no passes when he was at Michigan. Why would you do that?
I think in his entire last season, he threw 5 passes that were more than like 20 yards. Don't quote me on that, but it's some ridiculous stat like that.
There is no way on God's little green earth that I'm drafting J.J. McCarthy. He is a second-round pick at best.
I still see Michael Penix Jr. jumping up.
Maybe.
I mean, he's injury-prone or is labeled injury-prone because of what happened at Indiana. I still think he's a really good quarterback. Bo Nix is jumping up a lot of boards here. I mean, if there are quarterbacks, Drake May, I've changed my opinion on after actually seeing some film on him. He's pretty erratic at times. Like, he throws some outstanding throws, but he is very erratic at some times. If we're talking quarterbacks in this draft that I think are going to survive or at least have a chance, you're talking Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. I think you have those guys. I don't see anybody, and I don't know if they're going to be great either, but I think they'll at least get you past to a point. This is 2020 all over again.
Say, this is smelling like Trevor Lawrence draft where
2021,
none of the quarterbacks. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence, he's on his last year. He may be gone as of next year if he has another bad year.
He needs to step up in a big way.
Huge way.
The Jaguars need to move. Speaking of moving.
Oh, good segue.
Thank you.
You're getting so good at that.
I'm trying. I'm learning. Speaking of moving, what's going on in Kansas City?
I'm siding with the taxpayers, and I will freely admit, obviously the Packers.
You have to explain what we're talking about before you go into it.
Now, the Chiefs are threatening to move unless they get a taxpayer-paid new stadium or $800 million for renovations.
Right. It's $800 million for renovations. They're not building a new stadium.
So the Packers needed a lot of money to renovate Lambeau Field. They did a referendum, and the taxpayers said, okay, we'll pay for it.
Right.
Smart move, publicly financed stadium.
Well, here's
publicly owned.
It's publicly owned, but here's also what they did with that situation. So they were talking about going statewide, and the county actually voted on this, and the county said, we will take care of it, but every year you have to raffle off 10,000 tickets to members, only people living in the county.
Which is great.
So every household gets thrown in. There's 10,000 tickets. Each household gets, 2 to 4? I think it's 4 tickets. But it's a consistent raffle that's still happening to this day.
It's going to happen forever. And then
so not only did the county pay for it, but the county residents get something out of it.
The state would have passed a statewide referendum for the Packers. Just if you're not from Wisconsin, you've got to understand what the Packers mean to the state of Wisconsin.
But the county came up with a deal.
It was a great deal.
We'll just do it here. Then people who visit Lambeau can pay for this too. It'll be done in 5 years. We'll call it a day.
Then there's the Milwaukee Brewers Stadium back when it was Miller Park. County Stadium was built in the 50s. It was time for a new stadium. They put together a stadium district.
Yep.
It was like 5 counties that were taxed for it, and that built the stadium. They were owned by Bud Selig, one of the poorest owners in baseball at the time.
And one of the worst commissioners of all.
We're not going into that. So they did that. But now we're talking about the NFL contract provides billions of dollars spread out to the teams.
Yep.
If I'm a taxpayer in Kansas City and and the Chiefs owned by the Hunt family, which is worth billions, and the billionaire is looking at guys who are just making minimum wage or working construction jobs saying, no, you have to build our stadium. If I'm one of those guys, I'm going, hello, you pay for the stadium. $800 million is a check for you.
Well, so they have a tax in place for the Royals when the Royals built a new stadium who already need a new stadium. Now they're trying to get it. It was going to end in 2036, I believe was what the article said. No, 2031 is when it's going to end. But now they want to extend it to 2071. And by that time, they're going to extend it again because you're going to need a new stadium at that point.
Sure.
Kansas City does need renovations. But here's what the Packers did. And yes, I'm using the Packers a lot, but it worked. This is how I got my stock, right? They needed new scoreboards recently.
Wait a minute. Yes, they needed new stock, but they're the only franchise in
Hear me out,
major
though.
sports that can do that.
I let you speak. My turn.
I'll let you speak when you make sense.
You got to let me finish my
Okay.
thought here. So the Packers, when they needed new scoreboards, which are beautiful new scoreboards, by the way, they needed, I think it was $90 million.
They put the brick around the outside. They moved the Hall of Fame inside. They did a whole
bunch of stuff. And they do this anytime they need something. They open it up where the fans can buy into paying for these renovations. They don't ask the county. They don't ask the state. They say, hey, we're going to open up stock. If you want to be part owner, which means nothing, but it is a plaque that you get to have. I got mine in the other room in my office. You get to be part owner of the Green Bay Packers, and you help pay for this stadium. We give you a dinner every single year where you can come and hear about it. You can buy cool stuff there too. It's this whole spectacle where you get to buy in, and it's cool. The fans then pay for the stadium. It's not on the state. It's not on people who don't care about football. The fans pay for it.
Okay, what do you do when you have an owner?
When you have an owner, you can literally do the same thing.
Can you, though?
You can. You're not going to give away stock.
No.
But you can pay. You can have brick pavers out there. Hey, we're going to lay down this whole new brick, pay for your name on it. There's something you could do. If I'm an owner, I would come up with something that says, hey, fans, we need renovations on this stadium and we need your help. Buy into this so we can build these new renovations. You put the fans in charge of it and you give them that opportunity, and the owner takes care of the rest. These guys are multi-billion-dollar owners at this point.
Well, and Lamar Hunt is one of the richest of all of the owners. I think you would need legislation to do that, honestly, or some extra permission, whether it's from the league or whatever, to sell bricks forever. And it's been done.
Their property.
It's been done other places, by the way.
Yeah.
Fine.
How do you think museums get rebuilt in areas? They don't get tax credit, and so they sell bricks. It just happened with the domes out in Milwaukee.
Yes, but they aren't owned by one person.
They're owned by the city.
Exactly. They're publicly owned. This is owned by one family.
Don't come up with arguments against my arguments.
Well, it'd be like Jerry Jones saying, "Okay, I want," and he probably will, but he built AT&T.
Yeah, with his own money.
And he's gotten it back many times over. But if he would have went to the county in Dallas and said, "You pay for it,"
yeah,
I don't think I'm doing it anymore.
Well, Cowboys fans would have said no, and the state of Texas also probably would have said no. Jerry Jones did it right. Jerry Jones built his own stadium.
Yeah.
He said, this is mine.
And I own the rights. They gave him the land, probably.
I'm sure he got tax breaks on the land, and they worked something out, blah, blah, blah. But he paid for that stadium himself. It was $1 billion stadium. He paid for it himself. I don't understand why owners are consistently crying and saying, you need to build us a new stadium. I mean, you have something in Oakland where you can do public funding and private funding. That was what the Cubs did, right? They put in their own money in that renovation and got some help where it was a split here. But you guys are going to pay this off. I mean, ESPN just paid them, what, $8 billion for rights that get split up between all the owners?
I don't know what the rights were. I know
they just signed another deal for college football that was $8 billion.
Yeah, that was 7.8. But if I'm a citizen of Kansas City and that's my team, number one, they're holding the fans hostage because the Chiefs are never going to leave Kansas City.
Nope.
The fans are going to end up paying part of this, but the Hunts have to step up and pay the majority of this. They've got the money. $800 million to them is like $80 to you and I, if it's that much.
Probably $8,000.
Whatever. They've got the money.
Even if it's $80,000 to them, right? Yeah. I mean, that is what it is. Like, I can get a loan on that. Like, I mean, you guys can get a loan for $800 million.
Whatever they want to do, they can do, and then work something out on a long-term lease for maintenance of the facility or whatever they need to do with the county.
Yeah, I don't understand these cities paying for things all the time.
Not anymore.
It made sense back in the day, like you mentioned, with County Stadium, with Miller Park even at that time. I guess, but I mean, where else are these people going to move? If everybody just stands up and says, we're not paying for it, well, then you have no place to go, and you're not leaving Kansas City.
No, you're not. Somebody would take the Chiefs in a second. A community would step up.
Well, and this is what bothers me more than anything, is that you wait until you just win your second Super Bowl in a row to look at the fans and say, hey, by the way, thanks for supporting us during a championship. Thanks for spending all this money on championship gear and being in the stadium. We're going to need you to pay more. if
They
you want
paid
to
a-
keep us around.
They paid a lot of money to a PR firm to time that just right.
Yeah. I mean, literally, if it was me, bye. I've been saying that with the Brewers when they wanted this renovation, because this is what disgusts me about the renovations more than anything, right? Let's use American Family Field in Milwaukee, right? They got a referendum passed, right? And what did they say? They said, well, our roof needs fixing because they got that stupid roof on there that's retractable that made the stadium terrible. Obviously, I don't like the field. I think it's one of the worst in all of baseball.
It's just the
sightlines are terrible.
Sightlines are terrible.
I'd rather go to a crappy stadium and be able to see the game. The sightlines in Tampa are better. I'd rather go to a game in Tampa.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Because at least I can see the game.
Yes, but the food is so much better in Milwaukee.
Okay.
But
I'm there to watch a game, not eat food.
I support Milwaukee for building the retractable roof because they had to make sure fans could show up anytime.
Sure. But they said we need this referendum to fix this roof. And they set that up 20 years ago where they said, hey, we may need money to fix this roof. And so people bought in. They're like, listen, they told us about this, blah, blah, blah. And so they got the referendum to fix the roof. They're not using that money to fix the roof. What they're doing is they are winterizing the stadium because right now it's not winterized. They let air flow freely in there, but they're winterizing the stadium so they can have concerts now in the wintertime at that facility, which Milwaukee doesn't need. That's why they built Fiserv. That's why the state paid for Fiserv. This is a joke. This is you lied. And this is what happens, though, is you get these referendums passed, and it's a lie, and they use it for something else. If you want renovations, you pay for it yourself.
For those of you watching, he learned this a long time ago when he was a little itty-bitty guy in 9th or 10th grade.
I don't want to talk about this.
In the city he grew up in, the teachers got on him and said, we need this money or we're going to have to cut class sizes and we're going to lose teachers and we need it for computers, on and on and on. And what did I say to you?
That it was going someplace else.
It was going to build new tennis courts. And what was the first and only thing they did with that referendum? They jammed down the people's throats.
They built new tennis courts.
Exactly. This happens all the time.
Sensitive. I was very angry. I learned a very good lesson.
Yes, you did.
And that was the worst I told you so I've ever gotten in my entire life.
Not only that, I think I drove you to the tennis courts and said, this is where your money went. My money went.
Here's what really happened, folks, is he said, you need to come with me real quick. And we lived, less than a mile away from where the tennis courts were. He drove me to the tennis courts as they were digging them up, had me get out, and stood there with a dumbass smirk on his face and didn't say a word. And I just hung my head and got back in the car and then just giggled like he's doing now. The whole way home, just giggled. And I was like, you suck so much right now. I felt this big, and that's exactly how he wanted me to feel. And kudos on a good father move. I approve.
So in the case of the stadium in Kansas City, yes, the renovations are needed. It's an old stadium. It's been there for a long time.
But they're not going anywhere.
No, they're not going to go anywhere.
It's a joke.
It's just the Hunts playing hardball because they can, instead of being a good community partner and saying, look, we will step up here and we'll pay $500 million ourselves. The community will pay the other $300, whether it's through the way you said, buying bricks or whatever, or even if it was a small tax.
There's ways to do this where you're not holding. People think because of what happened with Oakland that other people can hold them hostage. Well, where else are you going to go? Vegas has already got their things. Nobody else is going to play these games with you. You see it time and time again where stadiums or other things hold these cities hostage. And it's like, guys, you don't need to play this game.
Well, and it's changed from like a stadium like County Stadium back in the 50s was probably built for $50 million, something like that. Who knows what it was.
Right.
To now, they're asking for billions of dollars of public money to build a new stadium. And that's
$100 million
just ridiculous.
is a big chunk of change.
It is. I'm not saying it's not, but.
And for you to look at it, especially during a time today where
9% inflation or whatever it is.
And now you're looking at people and saying, hey, we're going to raise your taxes even more. Like the timing of it is just horrible. The look of this is terrible.
Yes.
You guys are $1 billion owners where people already spend their hard-earned money. Ticket prices for a football game are through the roof right now, unless you're Jacksonville, which means they need to move to St. Louis and just become the Clydesdales, because that would be a great name. But this isn't okay.
I
mean, that's what I'm getting at. This isn't okay. This isn't acceptable. This is it's just a bad look. You've been a part of this community that's supported you throughout, that has cheered with you. That is the reason you're able to do what you're doing, is because of these fans. And now you're asking them for even more, rather than saying, I've made all this money because of you. We're going to do something for you and renovate this stadium so you have a better experience. Because you know what else is going to happen here? Not only are they going to hike the price or get the taxes to build this stadium to make sure sales tax is more for everybody in the Kansas City area, they're also going to charge more for tickets at the game, because now it's a better fan experience. I mean, we're going to raise taxes. So by the way, when you're buying concessions, you're paying for the stadium, and we're going to charge you more for tickets.
And by the way, I'm a multi richest owner in the NFL. It's all going, he's in the top 5.
I don't know. Maybe.
Whatever he is. He's a billionaire, several times owner.
Right.
Over. And all that money's going in his pocket.
Yep.
And it's wrong. And I've done a 180 on it. I actually have, because I supported, and in Tampa, I support publicly private financing. I think they need to do both. But at this point, Tampa just the Rays need to move.
I support public-private financing. If the owner's going to pay $500 million and he's like, hey, I need an extra $300 million, I still think that's a little ridiculous, but that's more feasible than anything. If you really want to be a part of that community and you really want to do something for the community, the answer from the owner should be, hey, by the way, we're doing all these renovations. If you want to be a part of this, do something for the fans where they can buy something. We're trying to raise $300 million, and we're going to take care of the rest to make sure you have the best fan experience possible.
That would have been a great PR move. That didn't even enter into their minds.
Nope. They just like holding cities hostages. Sure. But you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
You got me riled up on that whole Chief thing's got me angry. Something else happened that got me even angrier that you sent me today.
Yeah.
What the hell is a zippy?
I didn't know. I didn't know. For those of you that don't know who Zippy is, he's the who is he? Akron. He's the mascot for Akron. You can see him here. So what he is talking about, they had a mascot ranking, the top mascot for all of the teams in the NCAA tournament, and I looked through it, and I knew what it was going to be, and that's why I waited to send it to him. But they have ranked the mascots, and his favorite mascot of all time, Bucky,
the greatest mascot of all time,
was ranked number 15.
The only Badger in any sport.
I'm gonna put the rankings in the description down below so you can see it as well. But this was pretty funny.
Wait a minute. They voted Tennessee with a stupid dog in front of the Badgers.
Cool, man.
He is not cool. Texas A&M, another dog. Yale, another dog. Sparty from Michigan State was rated. Sparty's kind of cool, but it's a guy in a kilt. So
I never thought Sparty was better than Bucky. Bucky Badger is one of the greatest mascots in all sports. Like, even though I'm not a Badger fan, I have to give you the fact that Bucky Badger is one of the greatest mascots in all of sports.
Okay. Texas Longhorns, their mascot Bevo was rated above the Bucky. Bevo is cool. Because he can actually hurt somebody. He's a real Longhorn.
I can accept. This is why I sent it to you, because I can accept it. Even if the Spartans beat him, that's personal preference. They're both cool. If the Longhorn beats him, that's personal preference. That's cool. But for Zippy,
he's nothing.
Zippy looks like a bad costume you'd see, like a fake Elmo in Manhattan. Like, it's not a good mascot.
This one didn't beat Bucky, thank God. But South Carolina has a mascot named Cocky. That's just wrong.
Yeah, well, they're the Gamecocks.
I understand that. What is a Gamecock?
I think it's like a rooster.
I'm going to use an old George Carlin bit. It's like going to religious school. Hey, the cock crowed 3 times. Ha, ha, ha. The double entendre. It's just wrong. It's just wrong.
That was a bizarre way to.
If I can bring in George Carlin, I'm going to do it.
That's fair. I don't understand these rankings as much as you don't, which is why I sent them to you, because that's funny.
The
Peacock's pretty cool, though.
They had, what is it? San Diego State
Do you
has
have the list in front of you? I don't have it pulled up.
San Diego State has a bunny rabbit. They ripped off Bugs Bunny.
San Diego State doesn't have mascot. They weren't on this list.
No, they were.
Were they?
Yeah.
Those are the Aztecs. So I thought they were excused.
They got a bunny.
I didn't know you were going to bring this up, so I didn't pull up the list in front of me. So who are the schools that are ranked ahead of Bucky Badger?
Oh,
this is where it makes me really sad that Ohio State didn't win the tournament because the way
no,
no, Curtis would have 100% been ahead of them.
No way, no how. I don't have it in front of me. I will post the link to the mascots.
There's a lot ahead of them.
It's just wrong.
It's pretty funny. Bucky Badger, 15.
Bucky Badger is.
Becky Badger?
Yeah, well,
you know what? I'm surprised they've never done a Becky Badger for ladies sports. That would have been cool.
Even the ladies respect Buckingham U. Badger, which is his official name, by the way.
I didn't even know that.
Greatest mascot in any sport, in any place in the country.
Did you know
that?
The
best.
Bucky Badger, there's a reason they don't use Bucky Badger as their mascot. I learned this in radio because I worked for a radio station, Bucky Country, in Madison, and they had Bucky Badger as the mascot. So I asked the question, how do you get licensing to Bucky Badger? Do you know why they don't use Bucky as their mascot anymore?
Because they let the trademark run out.
It might not be anymore, but at least the time they just let it was open source. They just let anybody use it as long as you didn't use it in a derogatory way.
Yeah, the F''em Bucky shirts were everywhere.
We're gone pretty quickly. But as long as you didn't use Bucky Badger in a derogatory way, they let anybody use them. They didn't care. And then all of a sudden they actually became good at sports. And
they could make money off of it.
We don't have the rights to this. And Barry Alvarez put a stop to that real fast.
He came up with a motion.
Money on this.
He came up with a motion W. Bucky's still there. Luke Pickles using Bucky a lot more.
He is. Bucky is coming back. But yeah, all these people are using it throughout the state of Wisconsin. They just basically open sourced it.
All right. I'm calmed down now. Are you ready for picks guaranteed to go wrong?
I mean, considering how bad, at least I was with football picks, this bracket is going to look nasty.
We're going to post our brackets later on. I'll put them up on X, Sports Talk, W_dad. If you're on X/Twitter, that's where you'll find them. But we're going to do something different. We're going to do just a few selected parts of the tournament at this point to see how we do. I
haven't seen these before, so I don't know what
All right. So, which number one will go out first? UConn, Purdue, Houston, or North Carolina?
Hold on. Let me get my bracket. You got to tell me that we're doing this stuff.
I did. I sent you the bracket.
I didn't look at it. All right. So which number one's going out first?
Yes.
I mean, I think UConn is going to be in the national championship, personally.
Purdue lost to a 16 last year.
If I have to pick one, I mean, UConn has the hardest bracket.
Yeah, they got the Big Ten winner, the SEC winner.
They really did. It's not going to be UConn or Purdue. Those
winner.
are going to be my finals pick. I can tell you right now, UConn Purdue will be my finals pick. I'd have to say North Carolina is going to be out first. Michigan State's got a scary good team, and that'll be their second one. And I could really see them being knocked out in the second round.
I think Houston's going to go out first.
Do you? North Carolina also has Alabama, which is a sneaky good team.
They did, but Houston got just destroyed by Iowa State.
Good loss, though.
It was a good loss.
Purdue got beat by Wisconsin, too. Those are both very good losses.
It was good for Purdue. I think Houston is starting to wane a little bit. So I'm taking Houston going out.
It depends on their pace of play. If Houston gets to play the way that they want to play, and they are big and physical enough to play exactly the way they want to play, then Houston can go a long way.
They can.
This is one where I could see all four number ones actually being in the Final Four.
It won't happen. Speaking of that, which number one has the easiest bracket in your mind? Purdue's got such an easy ride.
I mean, Purdue might as well have been the number one overall seed.
I mean, that committee looked and said, we have to get a Big Ten team there. So let's just give it to Purdue.
I mean, Purdue starts with Grambling. They play the winner of Utah State, TCU. Gonzaga could be a hard school, but they're not the Gonzaga we knew.
No, I'm taking that as one of my. We'll talk about it in the next round question.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Kansas is not what we've seen them be before. They got a pretty easy bracket down. Tennessee could be an interesting game, but
it could be. So, my final guessing game.
All right.
Which 12s will beat which 5s?
Oh, now I have to look up the 12s and 5s. What do we have? James Madison, Wisconsin, McNeese, Gonzaga, UAB, San Diego State, and Grand Canyon and St. Mary's.
I think McNeese McNeese State beats Gonzaga.
No way.
Yep.
No way.
They're a sneaky good team. And I think...
Like, you knew who McNeese State was before this.
Actually, I'd watched some of their games.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're very good.
That bored, huh?
Late at night. And I think James Madison takes out Bucky.
I do think James Madison beats Wisconsin. Wisconsin got hot at the right time, and I could easily see them lose. But Wisconsin's a weird one because if Wisconsin can keep it their pace of play, that's how they've always been, and that hasn't changed.
Since Dick
They
Bennett.
can keep it slow, and they can keep the score low. That's where they win. But James Madison is there.
Grand Canyon,
I think, is going to beat St. Mary's.
No, St. Mary's is... They're back in the tournament. They're going to win.
Grand Canyon is going to beat St. Listen, I'm cheering for St. Mary's. I'm a big St. Mary fan overall. I just think that Grand Canyon's going to win. Grand Canyon's always that team that magically finds a way to go on a run every now and then. It's like them and VCU and I can't think where did Shaka Smart come from? Wichita State. They always find a way to...
Shockers.
The Shockers. They always find a way to get there. James Madison is another one, which is why I think that's a kind of an ironic matchup. James Madison, Wisconsin's campus is in Madison.
Yeah, but they aren't named. They are named
after
the
James
same
Madison.
people. San Diego State will beat UAB, I think.
Yeah.
The other 12-5. And by the way, if you're betting and you're taking our advice,
that's your fault.
Don't come talking to us.
That is all on you. We said that with the football picks and proved it.
Yes.
You do not listen to us when it comes
Even
to
though
picks.
I actually had a better year than I thought I would.
You had a good year. I didn't.
No. You had some rough weeks.
I had a winning record by one game.
Mm-hmm. And that was the last week that you got that.
It was. I went 4-1 in the last week, and that got me a winning record, and I am holding on to it for dear life because it's probably the only time I'll ever have a winning record when picking sports. It's pretty bad. I'm assuming in my bracket, I'm going to lose half of the first round games.
I usually am out by the first round.
I did have a perfect first round once in my entire life. In high school, I had a perfect first round, and then I had a perfect half a day. And then it was gone. All my Final Four teams were gone after that. Well, it was pretty ugly.
And then there's those brackets like when Virginia loses as a 1 in the first round or Purdue loses as a 1 in the first round. It's done.
One guy, I read an article about one guy who had the best bracket ever, and I didn't get a chance to really look at it, but apparently he only missed like 2 or 3 games.
Didn't he get to the Elite 8 perfectly?
Yeah, and he still had I think he still had the champion. Like he only missed like 2 or 3 games.
That's scary.
Which is crazy good. Because it's 1 in 9.2 trillion to get a perfect bracket.
I'll buy a lottery ticket first.
You have better luck of winning the lottery. And then even if you get past the first round, it's still like 1 in 120 million or beyond that, 120 billion or something.
And
it's crazy.
And they want to expand the tournament to make it even more unlikely that who knows who's going to win. Leave it at 68 teams, guys. It's really good right now.
It is. Even with the snubs, it's still really good. We don't need to make more, although I agree with expanding the tournament. So what am I saying? All right, so your upsets are what for 12-5? The reason we say this, by the way, there's always 12-5 upsets.
Yes,
always.
It's
at least 2 12s win.
It's the games that are the most likely to see upsets for whatever reason. I'm taking James Madison over Wisconsin, and I'm taking McNeese State over Gonzaga.
All right, I'm agreeing with you, James Madison over Wisconsin, because Bucky sucks.
Bucky is the best.
And I'm taking Grand Canyon over St. Mary's.
Okay.
Those are the picks. Write them down because otherwise we forget things.
I got it.
All right. Perfect. Awesome. Well, hey, you and I have had a heck of a show. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. And I just want to say real quick, thank you again for that plaque behind me there. Couldn't be here without you. Thank you so, so much. But as you know, you cannot have a conversation without your father, without your dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
So let's talk about companies who just never, ever seem to learn from other companies' mistakes. First, there was Bud Light. Now there's Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness, one of America's largest fitness facilities, had made the decision to let biological males who claim to be trans shower with the women. My question, when are we going to start protecting women? I've got a daughter. If I found out a dude was going into the shower with her, it would be an ugly scene. Some of these guys who are truly trans and they've fully transitioned, fine. Go ahead. But if you're just like Bill Thomas, swam in the spring, then declared he was Leah Thomas in the fall and swam with the women and made a mockery of the national championship. Riley Gaines lost out on a trophy because of virtue signaling. It's never a good idea. And if you're Planet Fitness, why would you do this? This is about biology. You have young women going in there and women of all ages going in there. It's your job to provide a safe and protected space for them to go in, change the clothes, and come out again. You've made it exactly the opposite. Bud Light lost millions and millions of dollars by virtue signaling. Planet Fitness, you already yesterday lost 7% of your value on the stock market. That's going to continue to go down until you wake up and make the right decision. This is about biology. It's not about virtue signaling. Protect the women that go to your facility and save the woke stuff for other places, because the one rule that is absolutely true, if you go woke, you're going to go broke.
That is a nice tagline at the end.
Thank you.
That was a nice little touch to end it.
Boom.
Well done. Thank you as always so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.